What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Bros. Another disappointing loss for your 76ers. One team had a bench. One squad went on a run when their superstar left the floor, and that's the Denver Nuggets. The other squad had George Niang take a three for the game, hit off the backboard, got the rebound, had a wide open Tyrese Maxey, and still tried to go up with it. What are we doing? IQ of the moment. Know the situation. And this team just completely fell apart. At one point, they had a 19-point lead. It evaporated. And yes, it was a second half of a back-to-back. And I'm not mad with their effort. I don't think their overall effort. Look, the last two games, they got annihilated right from the jump, and they looked extremely flat. Tonight, they weren't necessarily flat. This was a back-and-forth game, some wild fourth-quarter moments, right? Bones and Boogie out of nowhere were the two that really made it rain for the Nuggets. Deep from three, basically taking shots from the logo, nothing but net. So that's where they were able to contribute their points, but it was so bizarre. Joel Embiid goes up. Green should get kicked out of the league for that foul. Almost taking down my MVP. Should be kicked out of the NBA. Go play overseas. Are you kidding me? But the Sixers kept fighting back, but ultimately, when it came down to needing some shots, there was a Matisse Thybulle missed three in the fourth. There was a Tyrese Maxey mystery. There was a George Niang mystery. And then, of course, the really hideous one that we witnessed late as well. And one squad had their role player step up. And that's why I asked the question. When you acquire James Harden, who was not a problem in this game, considering what we've seen over the last couple of nights, he was one shy of a triple-double. He kept you going offensively and very engaged. There were times where Denver threw him a creative look, and what would he do? He would find Joel Embiid perfectly right around the free throw line area, and then he would have the decision whether he can take that mid-range jumper or he could go to the rim, or at times he could find someone out by the three-point line too. So even though maybe there were sequences where James Harden wasn't technically blowing you away with the box score or anything flashy, when you looked at the style of offense that was able to be operated when Denver threw you a couple guys and, brought some intensity with the defense, there's Joel Embiid in a soft pocket area where he would be able to deliver a bounce pass perfectly. It just came down to role players executing on one team and not for the other. And as I was alluding to, when you acquire James Harden, we all asked the question, or at least I know I did, can your superstars make up for the flaws of your roster? And I think on some nights, yes. And then tonight, no, they were not capable of doing so. Somehow, some way, you had those 9 points out of Matisse Thybulle. And yeah, he was awesome with the steals and whatnot. There were two in particular that stand out way more to me. When Jokic was getting the basketball kind of in that mid-range game, and Matisse Thybulle would fly out of nowhere and pickpocket him, or come out of nowhere and block his shot and leap towards Jokic as he's going up with the mid-range J. That's when it was awesome, because there's no real threat to have to focus on out by the perimeter. Tonight, you could maybe have the advantage to take those type of calculated risks. But early on, when he had two steals real quickly, I'm just going to play this card here because it's reality of the situation. The Joker just made some bad passes and put it right into his chest. So I'm not here to downplay Thybulle. I thought he was active. He was all over the place, but I'm not sold on anything. Think about it. Fourth quarter, big moment, wide open three. You can't be relying on Thybulle. But at the same time, this squad's defense is so putrid that it puts you in a bind. And by the way, I've seen better transition defense when I'm watching men's league at LA Fitness. How many times did the Joker grab the basketball and then whip it downfield like he's Peyton Manning? Or if he's Drew Brees and someone's just flying down with a go route and he's banging a beautiful pass over everybody, and then it's an easy layup for two and the Sixers just can't get back in transition. That really haunted them. So it really comes down to, when you break it down to the most simplest terms here, one bench exploded, and then the other defense, too, they were miserable with transition. And that's what this team has always been a part of. And even if you remember, sometimes at Brett Brown screaming about the transition defense, at times it's like, yo, fellas, we got to play sharper back there, and it goes on them. Now, I know Doc Rivers is a hot conversation because there was a timeout left when they got that Niang three. Here's what I'll say about that. They had a wide open three. The 76ers had a wide open three. And if you're going to scream and yell that Niang can't take that shot late in the game, I'm sorry, excuse me? Were you the same person that, 4 games ago screamed that George Niang has to play over Tobias Harris and now be a starter? Because that's seriously what we were getting. Phone calls, text messages, tweets at me, comments in the live stream, nonstop. You got to play Niang. You got to play Niang. So let me get this straight. You go from you got to start him and have him play significant minutes and be a serious weapon for you. And now all of a sudden you're screaming that he can't take that shot. I have no issue with letting it play out because at the end of the day, your team got a wide open look for 3. And then even when they missed that bonker shot, he had plenty of time. It just came down to a lack of execution, a lack of knowing. And that's on Niang. Niang's got to realize once he gets that ball after the original shot, you got to find Maxey. You got to do it. So they could have got 2 wide open looks there at the end. This is where you look at the coach and you start screaming at when it's not really his fault. Your players didn't play well on the bench. The other team's bench played extremely well. And why did some of the rotations look the way that they did? Well, Joel Embiid did have some foul trouble, but on top of that was a bit winded, needed a rest, needed a break. And why do you think that is? Because it's on the second half of a back-to-back. And I know that's something that bothers people when you continue to say that, but it's real. It is a part of the equation. I know when watching the game, you don't feel that. You might see it with some jumpers that come up short where it hits the front iron. You don't have your legs because you played a ton the night before you went to overtime. So it is visually there, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's not there at the same time. It's hard to measure and it's hard to see just from a spectator standpoint throughout. Oh, that's right. They played the night before. It's toxic. It's damaging. It got to the point where you had to put Joel Embiid on the bench early. So that played a role in some of the rotations. DeAndre Jordan is a disaster at the backup center. Danny Green was awful. So I don't really think you got to start analyzing. Doc Rivers sucks. Doc Rivers bad. We already have our thoughts on what Doc Rivers is. Nothing's going to change at this point. We have it pretty set in stone on who Doc Rivers is. This loss, if you watch this basketball game and pin it on the head coach, why are you pinning it on the putrid bench? Why are you pinning it on the fact that these guys came into the game and they sucked? They sucked. That's what caused you the loss tonight. While Bones is sizing up an easy 3 and then bang, making it rain non-stop. So guys who are very unexpected was ready for the moment. For the Nuggets, in terms of the MVP race, which, to be honest with you, I don't really care about. I don't care. But I know that was the hot topic, and that was the big dialogue surrounding this matchup. Joel Embiid waxed his ass. Waxed his ass. It wasn't even close. Joel Embiid looked like the way more intense dominant player out there when both of them were on the floor at the same exact time. To the point where if you didn't tell me that Jokic was unbelievable when they were both on the floor, I would have never even thought about it. Embiid with the step back 3 in the first quarter. That was when he scored his quick 10 points. Embiid with the pump fake, getting Jokic in the air, finishes at the rim. The mid-range jumper game. Jokic getting all frustrated, losing him a bit defensively. He's also turning the ball over offensively. That's how the game started off. And the Sixers say, if you want to look at a positive here, they haven't been able to kick things off at the tip-off very quickly. That wasn't necessarily the case here. Tobias got rolling with some confident shots. Then it died down, and that seems to be a trend, which I think we have to fix. Now, it was an obvious focus when they played Orlando to find ways to get Tobias Harris going and get him a part of this, and you saw that where they deferred to Tobias. It doesn't have to be about deferring and emphasizing. It should just happen naturally within flow of the offense. Play your game, and then automatically it would just be a part of what you do. You don't have to overanalyze. You don't have to worry about getting the ball in certain spots. You don't have to focus on something before the game of, hey, make sure we force feed to buy. It just shouldn't be that way. It should be when you guys roll the basketball out and you get accustomed to your game. It's just everyone finds their respected amount of what they're supposed to have. So obviously the two-man game between Harden and Embiid would be the number one part of your brand, and then it sort of feeds off from there. And then you look at the percentages, and then it kind of gets dispersed from that spot. But I hate how Tobias can get going the way that he does in that first frame, and then sometimes you don't even hear his name again until super late. Now, he did have a very important, very big, large offensive board, but there was that sequence where they kept getting offensive rebounds. Embiid ended up missing. I believe Maxey had a crack at it as well, or maybe it was Niang, but it was within the same possession. It was just about a tied ball game in the middle of the fourth quarter. Brick. And then here comes the Nuggets down the other way. Oh, man. So definitely a tough loss, a very emotional loss, because I thought that when you especially look at your starters and your two most important players, they definitely put you in a good position to succeed. And then at some point, there's going to be nights where you have to call on somebody else. Now, Maxey did okay. I didn't think Maxey was as slow of a game as we've seen in some of the previous action. But, I've seen him have more intense nights. I've seen him make more shots. He had the awesome dunk when he took it to the lane. He's just someone where you want to talk about how bad Furkan Korkmaz is defensively. There's times where Tyrese Maxey is just getting consistently obliterated. And as much as we love what he does on that offensive end, that definitely is highlighted and brutal. And it relates to why the other team has so much success the way that they do. And at times it is definitely irking me. No doubt about it. I'm trying to think of, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. And I watched on the ESPN feed, and they really went down the rabbit hole of I don't know why I said rabbit hole, not the perfect way to explain this. But when Jokic was dribbling the ball up the floor and he made a pass as he took 3 steps prior to the three-point line, they were debating if that was actually a travel or not. And somehow, some way, they convinced themselves that it was 2.5 steps when I counted 7. I couldn't believe it. In what universe? The boos come raining down. There was another moment, too, where James Harden basically gets ripped full throttle, full speed. Hands were pretty much locked in because the defender grabbed him by the forearm and the wrist and yanked him down. And Doc Rivers has both of his hands up. Like, in what universe are you standing there with the direction of your eyeballs being pointed right at the play, and you somehow still screw that up? Now, the referees is not why they lost this game by any means. Transition defense and your poor bench play. But I don't know how. It was really supposed to be about the broadcast. In what universe? That's the conversation that they're having in that moment. And then they tried to justify the green play on Joel Embiid when it was obviously going to be a flagrant foul. They're trying to discuss how, I don't know, when you look at where his hand is. What do you mean where his hand is? Look at how Joel Embiid fell. That got me off my chair big time. I went right to the front of my TV. Yo, motherfucker! Real quick. Heard the dog start barking. I woke the whole damn house up. I probably woke the whole damn neighborhood up. But you know what I'm saying? You don't do that. Luckily, he was able to get up. Anytime he holds that tailbone, though, I think everyone in Philadelphia gets a bit nervous. Luckily, we were able to breathe and move forward from there. But, yeah, ultimately, I saw a game where if you want to just keep it very basic, very from the surface, the Sixers stars outperformed Jokic. Embiid outperformed Jokic. James Harden had a sharp day at the office. Ugly turnover late, no doubt. Not what you're looking for whatsoever. But from the full body of work within his game today, I thought that he definitely played well enough to say that Embiid and James Harden did their jobs. And sometimes on some nights, you're going to do what you can, but then some of your role players and some of your lesser players will need to deliver. Maxey was what he was. Tobias was what he was. I mean, based off of where he started, I would have liked for him to continue that and keep that going within, not so much score as much as he did in that early frame and just think that that's going to play out over the 48. But at times, he just gets lost, and you don't even think about Tobias Harris. The name doesn't even come to your brain. That can't happen either. But it's more bench than anything else. That's where it was lost. Shake, DeMarcus, Niang, Green. Niang was putrid. But this is what an NBA role player is. And I tried explaining when everyone was screaming to start him because they just wanted to bench Tobias Harris so much that you can't do that. Niang is a player where if you put him in a position where he's gaining more minutes, he doesn't keep that up. He's a role guy. Has his big nights, has his small nights, has his average nights. There's a reason why Niang's not a starter. He's your prototypical NBA role player, and that's fine. You need that. That's an important piece. But you're going to have to expect nights like tonight, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's nobody's fault. It's just how this league works. It's how this game is. Some nights you're on, some nights you're off. Some nights you're making 5 of 7 from deep, and some nights you're going 1 for 8. And with Niang, it fell in that category of disgust tonight, unfortunately. So I believe now we're going to open up the phone lines at 856-442-9805. That's the phone number to climb in. I would love to hear from you and your thoughts on this game. 856-442-9805. The phone lines are now open. I see the chat go and everyone's upset with Doc Rivers. Maybe not everybody, but I see a lot of people mentioning Doc. See, every time you lose a game, it's not on the head coach. I hate to break it to you. Not every time you lose a basketball game is it on the head coach. The reason why they lost today is because your bench failed you. Your bench failed you. They had a wide open look at the end of the game. If they would have taken the timeout, fine. I wouldn't have been mad at Doc Rivers if he called a timeout to settle things down. But also in the NBA, you had James Harden with the ball. Oh, let's go. And they got a wide open look with one of their hotter three-point shooters over the last however many games. It just didn't fall. The reason why they lost is the shots didn't fall. It wasn't Doc Rivers tonight. There's nights where I will highlight Doc Rivers, but that's the easy cop-out. This is the NBA. It's the NBA. Eric Spoelstra's a phenomenal coach. Look how many losses they have this year. Is it always because Eric Spoelstra? No. You got to play the game, and the players didn't play well at the end. The Matisse Thybulle misses a 3. Maxey misses a 3. Niang misses a 3. And then at some point, you just kind of lose that flow. And I thought a couple times in that fourth, they fought back for that. They go down, they're down 1. Then they go up 2. Then someone hits a 3 for Denver, and then they go up. What would that be? 1 at that point. This isn't about math. I don't do math, but you understand my point. It was back and forth. It was crazy. It was wild. If I wasn't a fan of the Sixers and I casually tuned into ESPN tonight, it would probably be one of those nights where I'm insanely entertained, and it was a magnificent game to watch just from an entertainment standpoint. That's how wild it was. They got to figure things out, though. They got to keep working on some stuff. That's what their job is to throughout the rest of the season. I think they did get some things done in terms of schematic stuff. When you saw James Harden get the ball consistently for that soft little area there, when there were 2 players coming towards James Harden, like that's something that they're going to continue to have to work with. That's something where they can continue to get good looks. They're going to have to operate with that if a team will show that level of intensity defensively with the ball handler. So you're going to have to keep feeding off that. Now, that's obviously a minor positive, a minor success when you think of it all, but I'm here to dissect it all. It stings right now because they're losing a couple, or I mean, they lost against Orlando. It just feels that they won against Orlando. It just feels like they lost. Just based off of the energy surrounding it and how poor it was. But they have been playing poor as of late. If this game happened after a 3-game win streak where they've been playing better and they felt like more of a team with some juice to them, more flow to them, more rhythm with them, then we don't look at this loss the same way because it's now following a win in Orlando, but not one that we're okay with because it was definitely ugly. And then the blowout to Brooklyn, we start peeling it back a bit more because it's in a window of these 3 games that makes us uncomfortable, which is fine. I'm not downplaying that. You definitely have to criticize. The way that I kind of describe this is an outing where you criticize it, you look at the details, and you definitely grab some information on what happened. But at the end of the day, I'm not disappointed fully in them either, if that makes sense. Maybe that sounds outrageous to some, But I wasn't mad with their compete. If they could play that way on another night and just get more shots made, play the same way, just some of those open looks fall and they're winning the basketball game. I don't think the way they played, now that their transition defense needs to be cleaned up, that's part of also a large window of knowing that that's part of their flaws, though, that I don't think they have the answer on their roster. So it's always going to be part of that. But honestly, you could play the same way on Wednesday and beat the Cavs. Just a couple more shots fall. Some role players, Danny Green hits a three, Niang hits 2 threes. And now the whole entire fourth quarter is played out differently because at the 3-minute mark, the score is different, which impacts a certain possession. And now the whole entire game kind of changes its course. So let's go to the phone lines. Let's bring in Amadeo. What's up, Amadeo?
I think this loss just kind of stings a little bit more just because of the way they started this game, because this is one of those games where they actually started off pretty hot, but then it just kind of, died down a little bit. The energy got back up, and then felt like an up and down roller coaster, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it definitely did, but that's NBA basketball. That's basketball in general. That's why we always label it a game of runs, and this was one of those that was entertaining, and then it was a little bit heartbreaking, and then there were disappointing moments, but then there was some exciting stuff, and it was just a game of basketball where, you know how I always reference if it's a 7-game series against a team, and it goes 6 or 7 games, and both teams are throwing haymakers, and, you just go on this amazing journey emotionally, some disappointing times, some amazing times. This almost felt like that is a description of what I'm talking about within a 7-game series. This is one of those games where both teams are going back and forth, and then, you just look at it at the end and go, well, if only a few more shots were able to be landed by some of your role players, well, then this is a different ball game.
Yeah, of course, you get the usual Sixers fans overreaction when a bench player goes off against this team. Yes, it's very frustrating when it happens. And you also see when the defense kind of sags off of these guys a little bit and they keep giving them these wide open looks and they hit them. It makes it even more frustrating, but I don't know. This game stings, but it's not time to panic. I don't think Sixers fans should be panicking, but they're going to because, Philadelphia.
Yeah, and at this point, thanks, Amadeo. At this point, it's been a couple games in a row of, well, this game was a loss. I wouldn't say it's a damaging style of play like we saw in Orlando or against Brooklyn where they didn't have a fighter's chance whatsoever and they just got boned right from the jump. And by the way, speaking of Bones Hyland, if you are unaware of what he is capable of doing, he does make some shots. If you look at his game log and you look at his handful of games as of late, 17 points, 10 points, 11 points, 11 points, 19 points, 11 points. He does find himself in double figures, 14 points, 11 points, 10 points, 22 points. So he does have the ability to knock down some shots, and he's not afraid to shoot the damn basketball. So he is someone who has stepped up for them in the past. It's just when you look at the key matchups throughout the night, it's normally a Jokic, it's an Embiid. You just don't normally see Bones is one of those guys, and we don't watch the Denver Nuggets enough for it. In terms of the hot start, you're right, it was unreal, and they started off in that first quarter, and they had a nice ride. But also, I told myself during those moments, it'll even out. It'll even out. Jokic won't just throw the ball in Matisse Thybulle's chest a couple times as he's driving looking for a three-point shooter, right? I mean, that happened in the beginning stages of the game. That would stop. And then eventually he settled in, and I didn't think he was anything crazy. A few passes that were mesmerizing for sure. He did have that one awesome bucket, but if we're going to compare that to what Joel Embiid brought to the table, it's night and day. I thought Joel was that crazy good. He had one of his own that was mesmerizing, kissing it off the glass as he was falling. I still see him and James Harden complaining a lot after the whistle, or I'm sorry, after the play is over. The action's still happening, but after the bucket score, looking over at the referee, still looking for that and one call. Sometimes you just got to shut up and keep running up and down the floor. Now, Joel Embiid spoke after the game. He talked about the offense wasn't really the issue. It was the defense, especially the transition D. I don't know at this point how that's going to change, considering this has somewhat been long enough, right? I'm a big, well, what does the stats tell me? I'm a big, what do my eyes tell me over the length of time that we've seen? We're past the All-Star break now. There's not many games left. I've seen a lot of games afterwards where we complain that the transition D is just not good enough. So what? All of a sudden, that's going somewhere? No, it ain't going anywhere. At all. Yeah, see, Philly Sports is in the chat saying, I'm dreading the playoffs so much. Why? I'm not. I can't wait for the playoffs. I can't wait for the playoffs. Why? Why are you dreading the playoffs? The playoffs is why we are excited about sports. Sports? I don't watch the regular season just for regular season enjoyment. I don't sit my ass on this chair and scream into a microphone for 82 games because I love the 82 games. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy this journey and I like going on this ride, and teams have unique storylines, and you can really dive deep through some of these characters and personalities on a squad. But the reason is because that there's a reward at the end, and that's dissecting a 7-game series. Now, the 7-game series might not finish the way that we would like to, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that I'm looking forward to. Oh, because we will win the first round and then our hearts will be crushed in the second. Then don't watch. Don't watch, Joshua. Don't watch at all. Don't watch. That's all. That's what I'd say to you. All right, back to the phones we go. Let's go to the Anytime Hotline. Good evening. You're on Broads Media. Hello? Hello. What's going on, man?
Yo, how's it going, Broads?
It's going well.
Yo, I'm glad to hear that. I am going to say to start, I'm not a Sixers fan, but I do like watching you, and it's been really cool to see you guys grow, specifically your channel grow over the years. It's cool to see what you're doing. Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm just a little concerned about what Harden's been up to in the playoffs. I did a little bit of research, and I know you've said that it's not a big deal because he was playing the best team in sports at the time, in the Golden State Warriors. But he did break the all-time record in turnovers in that game and lost to the 2017 Spurs with no Kawhi or Tony Parker.
Yes.
And so I think that's where that worry comes from.
Yeah, but you know how long ago that is? And another part of it, too, is James Harden might not win. He might not win a championship. There's a lot of great players that haven't won a championship that have the skill level to do so, and I would still take my opportunity with them at the same time. And another point that I like to stand by is before we talked about LeBron, he lost in the he lost in the finals. And in general, every player we love for winning a championship had many moments of failing in the playoffs before they reached their ultimate goal as well. I don't know many players that never lose and they just jump into the playoffs and win all the time. Losing is a part of sports.
And I think that's a great point that you make. Harden he definitely has the skill, and I would take him and Embiid any day of the week over what you guys had in Ben Simmons.
Right.
Because of what a disgusting display he puts on both on and off the court. And I think that duo, I really just think if that duo together, surrounded by genuinely good players, can make a run. I just think the role players in place right now just struggle a little bit.
I think that's fair. I do. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the call. Thank you from supporting out of town, if you will. So I think that's a very fair assessment. And that's why even at the time of the trade, no one wanted to hear it. But I said, look, even if they don't win, and I still put them in the mix with all the other teams, but even if they don't, and they do have a downfall, which is transition defense and some bench players and some role players, Daryl Morey making the trade wasn't accomplishing the goal fully of a completed roster. When you make that move, there has to be corresponding moves to fulfill this roster the best way. And unfortunately, in the buyout market, that wasn't going to be a place to do so. It would need to be in the offseason, and that takes time to get there. And you need to go through this playoff series before you're even capable of getting to that spot too. So my point is, Daryl Morey trading for James Harden, if you thought the expectation at that point is, well, Daryl Morey, this is exactly the perfect thing that he wants for his entire roster. No, but it's step one of a 3-step process. And the problem is we need to play out this season before we can get to step 2 and step 3, which is figure out Tobias Harris, which in my mind, he's going to be gone. And you might bring in a Bradley Beal or you might bring in another player, but Daryl Daryl Morey has his eyes on the prize, and that's bring even more talent to James Harden and Joel Embiid. So they're still trying to tweak in more of a 2-3 year sample size, more of a 2-3 year window, trying to tweak what fits best around these two players. But as for right now, this is what you have. And even what you have now is better than what you had before the trade. You got to look at it as a multi-step process. What Daryl Morey was able to do to wait could be step one. He waited and waited and waited until James Harden won it out. Then you get to step two. You pull the trigger on a James Harden trade. Now, step three is play out this playoff season. You can still be in there. You can still. If Niang hits shots tonight, you might win the game. It could come down to one guy, just one guy tonight having a better shooting performance, playing the same way, and you could come out victorious, and there'd be a totally different vibe surrounding what this game was. They weren't far off from winning this game. They just needed one guy, and they really do have the guy. They do. They have the guy. It just wasn't tonight. And I always label games different identity. Each game is its own identity. It's its own life. It has its own characteristics. Just because Niang failed tonight, you could play on Wednesday against Cleveland and he go 5 of 7. And that's the identity of that night's game, I should say. So it's just kind of how it goes. This is the flow of it. Niang, unfortunately, the one night we needed him to be red hot and a sniper, he was cold. But Morey, this isn't like his vision. It's a step in the right direction to his vision, but he knows there's still a lot of buttons to go. Yes, I believe that the 76ers are still involved with all the other teams, Philly sports. I do. I believe they're the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat. Yes. I don't know why you're being a douche. Yes. I still look at this team as just like anybody else in this Eastern Conference. They're there. Doesn't mean they're winning the championship. Doesn't mean they're, I say when you bring in James Harden, the offense now becomes professional with a professional point guard where you can actually run NBA sets because you have a Hall of Fame point guard where you didn't even have a point guard before, and now that changes your team. You still have flaws, you still have issues, but this team should still be in the mindset, and fans should still believe that this team can compete with other good teams in the NBA. Yes, I do still believe that. And you'd be a fool to just jump ship. Congratulations on thinking that they can't, because you have such a great percentage of being right, considering how hard it is to win and knowing that this team still does have flaws. But you're not even in the conversation without these two pieces to begin with. You now have them, which gives you that fighter's chance that you never had before. If you don't see that, I don't know what to tell you, and don't stop watching. It's just that simple. Back to the phones we go. Good evening. You're on Broach Media.
How we doing?
You know what? I was pissed off for the last 70 seconds.
You know, I'm just calling in to say, why wasn't Danny Green out there? Game's coming down to it. You need a guy for a clutch three. Danny Green's that guy.
Danny Green stunk tonight. Stunk.
Yeah, but if you need a clutch three, would you rather have Niang or would you have Danny Green?
Niang. I'm done with that call. Niang. I mean, what do we do? I mean, the fact that, if it's Danny Green, I'm not complaining. He's a three-point shooter. But to call and say that Niang took the three, considering he's been your hottest shooter as of late, not tonight specifically, but neither is Danny Green. Holy hell, please save us. Please save us. Hello, good evening. You're on Broach Media. Please save us.
Hey, bros, what's up?
What's up, man? What's going on? Save us, please. I need your help.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like everyone's overreacting. I feel like the Nets game, when we lost badly, it made everyone mad and salty, and now everyone wants to turn on Harden again. And I'm like, I've watched Harden my whole life, basically. And when he first went to the Nets, he was killing it. And then he started having games like when Kyrie came back from injury, he started having games where he was playing passive and stuff, just like the first half today. Playing passive, and people are like, what is he doing? What is he, we traded for Harden, he's doing this. He's just getting acquainted to the team, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Like,
even
people don't
say
realize,
tonight.
like-
Even tonight, though, when you say passive, I thought there was a style of running things slowly, but he did it at such an efficient pace that he might have not have been wowing everyone to death with just crazy plays. But what he did that was so simple and set everybody up in half court and was able to get this team going, I thought that was extremely important considering the way Denver was playing him defensively, that even though, you call it passive, and sure, I guess it is passive to a degree, but I thought it was important to the style of the Sixers being able to operate an offensive look.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think people get too, like, enamored with Houston Harden, and they're like, they want someone who's like, the ISOs, the step backs, dropping 40. If you want Harden to do that, then people will start complaining that the ball's not moving enough and, like, Harden's dribbling too much. If you want Harden to be the same type of guy he was in Houston, there's going to be a lot of possessions where the ball's not moving enough.
Yeah, that would
And
be
I think
foolish.
people need to realize it.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for the call. This is the version of James Harden that is what you need him to be. If he's giving you 26 and he's also giving you 10, 11 assists, and that's what he's doing, you're in a good spot. And he's also grabbing 9 rebounds or so. If he's giving you some variation of high 20s, mid 20s, but also dishing out 11 dimes or so, that's what you need him to be on this basketball team. Everyone bringing up, but in Houston this, and it doesn't matter. He's not playing with Clint Capella. He's not playing with Robert Covington. He's not playing with Eric Gordon. He's playing with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and at times, you're figuring out some bench rotations and playing a different style. It doesn't matter what happened in Houston X amount of years ago. We need James Harden to be this level of James Harden. And, if you watch tonight's game and you're disappointed in what he did, I don't know what to tell you. I thought he handled things at a very professional rate and was able to operate things smoothly, where you just take it for granted because it's not anything special and it's not everything. But sometimes Chris Paul just does the simple, basic play. He makes a good A to B pass, and that A to B pass sets up a good shot, or it sets up a nice pass into the post. So it goes from A, B to C, and now it's a bucket, right? Sometimes it's just a basic basketball play. And the way Harden reads the floor and can get Embiid the ball in a soft area there right inside the three-point line was what was able to get things established. And I thought that was extremely important. So I just don't get how you can hate that as a whole. And now Benjamin comments in and says, Broads, how can Docs fix this? Fix what? Fix what? The transition defense? Probably can. The bench going cold? Probably can. Probably cannot. So we know there's limitations here, no doubt. But just for a night where Niang gives you this, he'll also give you a wild one where the Wells Fargo Center erupts and he gives you 20 points or he gives you 18 points. And if you get one of those nights, you win this game and you walk off and you're excited about it. And you go, damn, Niang was awesome. So you can't fix the transition D. You can't fix the bench going cold on a night. You can't fix those issues. What you can do, though, is get Tyrese Maxey certain looks and target certain players on the defensive side, like Seth Curry a few nights ago should have been punished a lot more. You can run a different style in offense and get your players going with a quicker pace at times and move the basketball a little bit more instead of being stagnant like we saw the previous 2 outings. Those are the type of layers that Doc Rivers can do. But why you lost tonight was not anything that Doc Rivers could put his fingers on and then just change the way it played. It goes on the players on that one. $2 from Joel. This one is not on the stars. Harden was good. And also Joel Embiid was good. And Joel Embiid took Jokic's lunch money tonight. Yeah, he was that much better. It wasn't even something where it's debatable on who was better. When they were both on the floor at the same time, I'm telling you, Joel Embiid absolutely annihilated Jokic and looked way more dominant, looked way more comfortable, looked way more poised, and got a lot of great shots off. And I'm not downplaying some of the assists that Jokic had and some of the plays he had in that transition game where the ball was just soaring in the air. But Joel Embiid was honestly on a different level than him, and it showed big time. Luna with the $2 donation as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate the donations and all of the support. With that, we will go back to your calls out there. Hello, you are on the air.
Hey, Hunter, my man. going back to the comment that just got mentioned, I don't get the Doc Rivers slander for this game. Sure, 19-point lead, but we've had this problem for a while, even back to the days of Brett Brown. Plus, I think we could all agree there's a ton of other coaches in the league right now that doesn't have as bad as blowing leads at rep as Doc, yet would have struggled to hold on to leads because of a bench like this.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the 19-point lead was in that second quarter-ish, and Joel Embiid played, 40 minutes or so last night, and now he's on the second half of a back-to-back, picks up his third foul, also very fatigued. I mean, maybe you don't go to the bench in that circumstance if it's a postseason game, and on top of that, you didn't play the night before, and, that changes so much, which is the context of what this game was in that particular moment. And that's why I say it's so hard to relate this to what's going to happen in a postseason game, because maybe Doc Rivers doesn't have to go to the bench there because Embiid isn't fatigued because he didn't play 40 minutes the night before, which changes everything. So I'm right there with you, which is, yes, they blew the 19-point lead. It happened early in the game. You knew Denver was going to get back on track at some point and get going a little bit better than they did in that first quarter. And, this team struggled. The Sixers did at times, but I can't blame the coach. I can't.
Me either. One more thing I feel like we got getting gassed out, as you mentioned, in Orlando plays a factor. Like, we could have won this game. Not many people thought 24 hours ago that we would be as close to winning as we were this evening.
Yeah, that's fair. And another point, though, that I do want to make just to play the other side is this is the NBA. So I'm not going to give you some waving pom-poms and just give you a lot of praise for your effort. Even though I've referenced it throughout the show, I do think it's important to note, but there's a line, right? I'm not trying to cross the line and say, well, I'm 1,000% satisfied and I don't care at all about the result. I do care about the result, and I will target the areas that I think needs to be discussed. So I will give them credit based off of our previous efforts that looked like they weren't prepared. They were prepared, even though that's part of their job, and I shouldn't give them claps for it. I'm going to a degree, without overstepping my boundaries and putting way too much excitement and way too much emphasis on it. I'm just balancing it perfectly, which is, if we didn't think they were going to win because they looked bad in Orlando, that's not how I personally feel, because I know how this league works. You're a little bit more motivated tonight, and you kind of fell into a trap situation possibly with Orlando, knowing how tough the schedule is. You got some really hard opponents coming up, and you just squirt a little bit of Orlando there. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but I just used it. You just get a little Orlando thrown in the mix there on a Sunday night at 6 o'clock on the road in a dead arena, and it goes to overtime. I mean, yeah, that's your prototypical trap game. Every time you look at the Eagles schedule and you see, like, let's say you play the New Orleans Saints, and then you play the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then you play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. What do we call that Jags game? A classic trap, because it's in the middle, or let's say it's Jacksonville, and then it's Tampa, and then it's Minnesota on the road. You think, oh, man, that Jacksonville is a typical trap game. That's what that Orlando game was. So I didn't necessarily believe that just because it looked the way that it did in Orlando, it's automatically going to be an absolute abomination here at the Wells Fargo Center, because we know how much Embiid is hungry. We know he likes to thrive off of this MVP type of dialogue and likes to try and rise to the occasion when the moment gets to that point. And I thought he absolutely did tonight. And like I said a billion times, wasn't even close. He stole his lunch money. So yeah, Wednesday you're on the road in Cleveland. You're back at home Friday night against Dallas, which Luka was on something else, making some of those shots against Boston the other night, which was crazy. So was that Jaylen Brown play too. They play the Raptors on Sunday night in Philadelphia. So they got a busy week and some busy action. Miami Heat too, second half of a back-to-back. I went through this pretty recently on another show, but yeah, I mean, that's basically where I'm at with the Sixers in that Orlando game. I didn't personally believe that just because it looked one way one night, it'll look the same the other night. And I just have a lot of NBA basketball watching experience to know that each night is different. Each night is just out there. I mean, Matisse Thybulle had 0 points the other night. He had what? Did he finish with 9 tonight? What was the final? Did he finish with 9? Now, one of those. See, I don't want to do this. I have my Matisse Thybulle problem. So, yeah, he finished with 9. I know his steals. Wow. And, yeah, I know. I saw the steals. I thought that there were two that were more impressive than the others. The others, it was just Jokic making bad plays. But really, I can't trust him. I can't trust him. And then at times, I'm worried about him being out there. He gets a wide open look, but at the same time, he's stealing the ball from Jokic when he's in the post area and doesn't see Matisse Thybulle flying around out of nowhere and just pickpocketing the ball from behind and then getting the fast break. So it's very difficult to judge the two. But whose fault is that? See, now people want to say, well, Doc Rivers. No, it's Matisse Thybulle's fault. It's Matisse Thybulle's fault that every single season he has gotten significantly worse shooting the basketball. See, that puts Doc Rivers in a bad spot. Now, it's his job to maximize what your roster is, even if there are limitations. But that's like demanding someone to win when your point guard doesn't shoot. Now you have a problem where this kid, what you want me to throw in Green? He can't make a damn shot. Matisse Thybulle can't make a damn shot. And we need some sort of scoring. We need some sort of spacing. We need someone who's respected. Well, if you throw in Danny Green, well, then your defense is getting shelled even more. And it's a very tough thing to decide. And that doesn't mean that Doc Rivers has zero impact. Doc Rivers does have a role, and he can do certain things, and he can switch up things. But overall, I think sometimes there's just too much blame on any head coach when it's more simplified, and it comes down to you have players that aren't your stars, and they log minutes, and when those minutes are available for them, they have to execute. One team, Boogie Cousins, what was that? Deep threes, nothing but net. Bones, what was that? That was the difference in the game. Those two players were the difference in the game. It's really that simple. That's where it was lost. Bang, 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 bang. I'm watching these threes fly. Nothing but net. Cash. Brick, 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 brick. Off the side of the backboard, get the rebound, puts it up for two like a dope brick. I saw good looks tonight. I saw poor execution. That's what happened. We got Zane from Nevada. Forgot to leave my name. Oh, you already caught it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. You have the same hair and the same beard. Wow, so you got yourself a nice little man bun, huh? There's a little messy bun going. Not that anyone cares, but you got a little man bun going. You got to rock the bandanas. I got to see the swag. That's for sure. Jonathan texts in and says, not saying Doc is anything special, but a whole lot of other coaches would easily struggle to hang on to leads with this bench. We have to find ways to win in spite of this. Well, it's going to be difficult to, to find ways when players can't score, when players cannot score. T, I don't know what you're saying. Danny Green and Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton do not get you James Harden. It doesn't get you James Harden. So then you don't have him. You're just making stuff up as this is his NBA 2K. Your takes have been hot garbage as of late, by the way. I just want to let you know that I do see them. I do see you blowing up the Anytime Hotline. And I've never seen anyone move the crap they say out of their mouths more than you. And that's saying a lot coming from me. Come on, T. You're better than this. As if this was an option. Don't you think Daryl Morey would have tried some of this stuff? Please. Come on, T. Come on. Unbelievable. Nick wants to know if I thought this game hurt Embiid's MVP chance. No. Why would this hurt his MVP chance? He played better than anybody on the floor. He dominated this basketball game when he had the basketball in his hands. He produced the most out of anybody else. The team lost, but if anyone with eyes analyzed this game, why they lost the basketball game, well, I just labeled it. It's the other team had Buggy and had Bones, and they banged. They drilled shots when they needed to. That's the story. It's not like the Joker just dominated at will and cruised this fantastic game. No, he didn't stink. He was good. He was good. He was good. That was good. But when Embiid and him were on the floor at the same time, I thought it looked different. I thought one really put in his will. One had, one was willing himself to proof. Joker. Now, I did see this comment, and I'm curious. Someone tweeted it at me during the game. Is it possible that there was too much respect for the Joker out there? Could it have been even meaner? Now, ultimately, I'm not picking at Joel. This is more just barroom conversation. We're kicking it. We're having cold ones. We're hanging out. We're crushing Miller Lights, and then we get after it with a little bit of a debate, right? Is the respect? It's sort of like when Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor fought in a couple UFC main events ago. I guess it was more than a couple, but there was so much respect there that I thought it impacted the style of the fight and the level of hatred. And, we just watched one this weekend or a couple weekends ago, whatever the hell it was, Masvidal and Colby Covington. They despised one another. You could feel that. Is there too much respect like they're boys? Like maybe Embiid could have even done more. Could have even been more of a lethal weapon. Now, like I said, far from the reason. This is more just having fun, breaking down some dialogue with it. Because I saw, a little pat on the butt or a little, behind the back, little tap after a certain play. It's a little bit different than when you're playing Kevin Durant. And there was that fierceful energy of, fuck you, right underneath the basket. You see that snarl by Kevin Durant. It still had a respect. It still had a dog. It still had a killer. But you could see the difference in the vibe. Look, far from the problem. I'm just having fun with it. And I do wonder, though, for more, like I said, this isn't major problem, but just in terms of when you think of the Kobe killer, when you think of the Kevin Durant killer, they are at another level of that dog that I don't know if you can necessarily get to. Like, you can't get that. You either have it or you don't. And a lot of, I'd say 0.02% of individuals have it. So it's okay if you don't. But it just puts it in perspective of maybe the way that a Kobe handles it or so. But once again, just having fun more than actually concerned about it. Back to the phones. Hello. Good evening.
What's up, Broads?
What's up?
It was nice to see Tyrese Maxey have a good game tonight. Obviously, I'm upset about the loss, but, Tyrese Maxey, he's had a rough last couple of games, but he actually had a nice bounce back performance, and that was encouraging.
Yeah, he did better tonight than he did in previous nights. I still think that there's more for him to do. But, he wasn't the reason why they lost this game. He did have a 3 that he missed, but ultimately when I see what we saw tonight, he wasn't the major issue why this team lost. Although I will say, when he gets torched defensively, it's uglier than any Seth Curry defense, which is insane for me to say that. And even Furkan Korkmaz level defense. We love Maxey as we should, but he is an issue on the defensive side of the floor.
Yeah, and I agree. And I also just want to make things right with you. And I just want to apologize, man, because I'm actually Philly_sports, and I've been following you for years now. And I just want to apologize for riling you up earlier.
Dude, it's all good, bro. Look, I learned this a long time ago, and I appreciate that, man. I do. I do. That very heartfelt, warm in the heart, if you will. I learned this a long time ago, and this is for anybody that I scream at. I don't care. When sports debate is fun. That's all. We scream. We get all pissed off. We're red in the face. Oh, screw you. I don't care. When I'm done this, I hang out with my dogs. I hang out with my fiance. I have a cup of coffee. I watch TV. If someone likes Maxey a certain way and I look at Maxey differently, or if someone likes Harden and I look at Harden even better than they do, if someone's scared about this and I'm not scared about that, I don't care. I don't take anything to heart. I've been doing this long enough where I've gotten into heated debates on the radio, and I've been screaming at a co-host, and then afterwards during the break, you laugh it off, and it's good entertainment. It is what it is. I don't take anything sports opinionated to heart. Now, I might scream, and I might freak out, and I might show my emotions in the moment, but in the grand scheme of things, if I ever fight with someone or anything like that, it's just fun. That's all it is. So I appreciate that, though. I do. I don't care about it enough. It won't change my life. I'll have fun with it, for sure. Oh, yeah, I'll embrace the living hell out of it. Big picture, though, tomorrow we talk about something. It is, you can go overboard and sound like a dope to the point where, there is respect lost. Don't get me wrong, but what you said tonight is totally fine. Totally fine. Not getting there whatsoever. Yo, bro, Sam from State College. Refs were a joke tonight. Danny Green was a joke. Sick of him getting torched by dudes like Hyland. I mean, I'm not saying, I mentioned the refs earlier, so, I think it's fair to point out some bad calls throughout the game, but doesn't every NBA game ever have bad calls? Can't you honestly break down every basketball game in the history of basketball, college basketball, AAU basketball, high school basketball, and find a sequence of 6 or 7 plays that you thought were abysmal? Absolutely. So did Joel Embiid get boned by a couple calls? Absolutely. Has Joel Embiid got the benefit of other teams getting boned with certain calls in the paint? Absolutely. So at the end of the day, when you think of it going full circle and 180, it just is what it is. And yeah, this game goes farther than the referees. There's times, though, where you can point out, holy hell, the referees were hot garbage tonight, and that definitely played such a major impact on what happened. Tonight wasn't really that. Even though I mentioned that they did have to take Embiid out and there was some fatigue involved, I thought the fatigue involved was more than the fouls itself. Maybe it was a combination, but ultimately, if players play better, then you win this basketball game. That's what it stems down to. Now, Doc's on tonight's offense. We got to get the ball moving again. We were so prepared, and you could see it at the beginning of the game, for all the traps, all the movements. We got everything we wanted. And as the game went on, it just dissipated. We were a one-action team. So from that angle, that is something where when I tell you that Doc Rivers, isn't the first problem, they still got fine shots. They still got fine looks. They just didn't cash in. But, yeah, if the head coach feels that way, that they were prepared in the beginning, and as Denver kind of threw different ways at you, or maybe you just thought your team was doing something that you told them to do something else and they weren't getting that job done, but then, yeah, it's on you to kind of settle things back down and make sure your sets are getting ran so it can then get back to what was working in the beginning frames, or adjust so then it is countering whatever the Denver Nuggets are doing so you can get even better looks. I still thought their number one issue, though, was just putting the basketball through the hoop when there were plenty of times to do so. If this game played out the same way again, it could easily, with the same exact looks I'm saying from both teams, it could easily be flipped the other way. This brand of playing tonight, it could win you games. It can. It could win you games. It could be better. No doubt. This wasn't perfect. This wasn't a 100% game where I'm just in awe of how great it was, but they fell and they lost and they fell on their face. No, absolutely not. But this same game played out could result in a win. And not by like a long shot either. That's not some crazy thing. $3 from Abs. Let's just all thank Daryl for bringing James to Philly. Well, I agree. I definitely agree with you there. I've been feeling that way since the trade happened. I've been feeling that way since he wasn't trading Ben Simmons for Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton, and he was waiting. Remember, people wanted to try and snag an Aaron Gordon. You see Aaron Gordon out there? That was Aaron Gordon, with all due respect. I don't even know what the hell. Thank you, Abs, for $2. I don't even know what he actually averages, but when I saw him tonight, I'll be honest, I don't sit there and critique Aaron Gordon's game to like this lethal level. But today, he averages 14.5 points per game. He shoots 31% from three, so not very good from the spacing. Last year, at one point, 26% from three. Woof. And he averaged 10 points per game, which is definitely significantly lower than what he was doing in other seasons, although he got traded and was on a new team. He went from Orlando to Denver. So anyway, just come on. Aaron Gordon. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. These quitting Sixers fans are really soft. This is coming from Remo in the chat. Yeah, this is what it is. It's a journey. It's a ride. You got to embrace the ride. And I think it's fair every 5 games kind of analyze the last 5 games. Game by game to just bleed whatever that game was, and the outcome of that game now dictates your feelings. In basketball with 82 games, it's almost got to be every 5. Every 5 games. Let's look at it block by block by block. So then you see within 5 games, what does the offense look like? What does the defense look like? And then you have more of knowledge of what exactly this is and sort of who they are. And right now, they're in a down spurt. But you can look through any NBA team ever through 82. You get your super highs, you get your lows. Right now, the Sixers are in a bit of a rut. Doesn't mean they can't get out of it. It takes two games in a row of playing good ball again. Everyone's rolling with great emotions and feeling great again. People were feeling good at some point in this game when Denver would make a push. The Sixers would then make another push back. There was one moment where Embiid just went on. It was a nice run. It was about a 9-0 run. I might even wrote it down in my notes where Denver took a push back. They were able to kind of creep into the lead a little bit. Well, it was during that second half, right before halftime. It was 58-53, 19 lead, cut to 5. But I don't know if I did right. Oh, yeah, 9-0 run. Third, you lose the lead. You go on a 9-0 run. Joel Embiid hits a J over Jokic. The problem is there were some great passes involved by Jokic during that frame as well. But they did have many answers throughout the night. They did. They just ran out of gas. And to pretend like playing a game last night that went into overtime has zero correlation to the game, that's not true. So, there's things to pick at to make sure things change, and it has to get sharper, and making shots and drilling shots need to be more efficient, no doubt about it. But these are also circumstances that are never going to happen in a playoff series. You'll never play an overtime game on Sunday and then play a game on Monday night after playing 40-something minutes if you're Joel Embiid. It's just never part of the equation. Now, that doesn't mean that they win this game if it's on Tuesday. Maybe you don't. Maybe you still lose. Maybe you still miss all of your shots that you could make. Maybe. But I'm just saying, sometimes it's hard to relate. And people don't like that you're making an excuse, but it's not an excuse. It's just details. That's all. There's a difference between an excuse and then details on the scenario. They could easily, I'm admitting it right now, they could lose if this game wasn't a back-to-back. Playing a good team in Denver. I don't know if you guys heard that, but my wash is done. That's right. I'm doing wash at 11:30 at night. But we'll see where it goes from here. We'll see what happens on Wednesday against Cleveland. With that, I want to thank everybody so much. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. If you're looking to buy tickets for any sort of event, you got some home games coming up over the weekend for the Sixers. Promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page gets you $20 off. There's so many great tickets involved right now. It's a no-brainer, great prices. Get yourself to a game that eliminates all the fees. TikTok, Broads Media. We're incorporating a lot of fun there, so hit the follow button on TikTok. And then tomorrow morning, we will break down the Eagles' move, making some splashes. Well, one splash, but big splash by Howie Roseman getting Reddick. So what is that going to do for the Eagles? Make sure 10 a.m. here on Broads Media, you are there. We're going to break it all down. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight, and I will see you tomorrow.